And then sacrificial. Which it would need to be because you need to get the crit chance. The crit chance and the Lachran's crit chance cancel each other out for that. Sure. So normally you have normally you have a 1.32 and wait, do you normally fit sacrificial on the build? I'm currently not fitting sacrificial. So this would be like fully adding sacrificial. Okay. Incorrect. Right. Okay. Well, hold on. This is what they normally are. No, not that. So this is equal to the difference of here. So this is going to be equal to this times this. Okay, so sacrificial with a GA triple masterwork on Coalesce Blood outperforms. And it's slightly, but it does outperform. That's assuming that you GA triple masterwork crit on the resource on the other two pieces of gear. Now, how do you compare? Lachran gives you attack speed, which is not nothing, but that's kind of hard to compare. Gives you 166 crit. The attack speed is a wash across the amulets, so it gives more additive. And does sacrificial even crit cap you? It doesn't, right? You actually need crit on a roll. So let's call the additive here. That's so hard to compare. The additive here outperforms additive elsewhere, but you need a crit roll on another piece of gear, so maybe we call that a wash. Let's just call that a wash. The all stats. Roughly call that a wash. This also ignores the fact that like you could GA this for one more, which is 3% larger than what it was previously. So I'm going to argue that a perfect amulet is 9%, call it 10% stronger than Locrin's. How is Morticrux? Real bad. The third affix is a wash. But yes, so tempers. I forgot about tempers. So the additive damage on the amulet is a wash for the temper that you could put there. Having less resource. So here's the other problem though. Locrin's becomes significantly, or Lucian's becomes less valuable without Locrine. That's another thing to consider. Well, you would move the masterwork because you wouldn't care. And that's relevant. Okay. So I'm going to put a perfect amulet at like, I'll call it a solid 25% stronger than Locrin's. Morticrux is a minion, yeah. I'll call a legendary amulet 25% stronger than Locrin's when we're talking about end game, like end game perfect amulets. I think that's fair. Because you could reprioritize to the core skill damage. Or core skills. Might be a bit more. How much is 7 ranks? So I'm already gonna have gloves. Blood surge. Call it 4 for right now. So it's a difference of 175 versus 147. %. It's called the amulet 20%. That's not technically fair to do. But it's definitely best in slot for a long time. Yeah. Oh, hold on. I want to get more accurate here. I actually fucked this up. Mater, dude. Welcome home. You're here. Hmm? Okay. Okay. Congratulations. Okay, so base, the amulet is 22% stronger. Then you add on a redistribution of stats. It's like pretty significantly stronger. You just need to find a dual passive amulet with GAs. So how weak? Well, how weak could the amulet be and still be better? Because even if it was just being able to masterwork Lochran's different, how weak would the amulet have to be? Do I think Lochran's will drop during the leveling phase? All unique items drop from any content in the game that's high enough level to drop the unique items. So people will find Lochran's amulets throughout the game, yeah. If they didn't, it would be a very interesting new way of them introducing items. If you put in a heart for the Blood Maiden, you get significantly more loot. You have New Way? New Way for what, Masami? Oh, I can take a pic too? For what? Can you help me to have context? I feel like you have been attempting to show me a thing, but I don't know what you're attempting to show me. So context would help me out a bit. But a picture of what? What is the thing that you want to show me? So we go from BD, a big dick? I don't want to see a picture of your penis. I assume that's Blood Surge. Oh. Yeah, you can post a link to a D4 planner in the Discord. Or you can post a link to a D4 planner here. You know, I'm looking at it, Garm. Lockrens might be a trap. It does need to be a 2 passive amulet. It needs to be a 2 passive amulet. Do I have an amulet with Tides of Blood or with Coalesce? Well, where are you going? What the fuck? No. The Lockrens is kind of a trap. Well, hold on. 2.2. $5.2. Okay, hold on. Because you use the resource management potion with it. With Lockrens. The other one gives you maximum life, which, like, yeah, sure, that's an amount. But it can't just be a 2... I'm an idiot. Wait, hold on. This already includes... Hold on. Hey, Mac, do math. Where did this number come from? Right, this is with the GA. This is with this. Okay. All right. Okay. I was... Woo. Okay. It is significantly stronger than even a 2 regular passive amulet. Right, because this number is based off of GAs. This is what your multi looks like with a sacrificial, just the 2 passives amulet. And for it to become stronger, I need to I need to redo all of my math. We're redoing all the math. Okay. Just to start, if you had a regular passives amulet with sacrificial on it, this is how strong it becomes. For this to outperform this, we need to gain a significant amount of additional plus skills, which it will become better than eventually. But that is the difference. Let's just call it this. Where do you get Lucian? I'm hard trying to get this. I got it from Whispers. You're in my Discord. Okie dokie. Yeah, just post it into general. For it to outperform, what we need it to do is no problem. Because this is the difference of just 3 ranks. Whereas instead, we get a 1.6. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. Hold on. This is Lucian's this is the multiplier from rocking a Lucian with GA Masterwork triple crit on Essence and a lock-in with GA triple work Masterwork crit on Essence. We're talking about best case scenario here. Because you would also use the resource potion. Versus the multi that you normally get. The multi that you normally get from Coalesce Blood is a 1.81. And the multi that you normally get from Tides of Blood is a 1.1 because we're taking it at 1/3 value. Okay. So a base amulet just running sacrificial, getting nothing else. Get you up to a 1.41. That's a 1.41 multi. Okay. Then we get to add on this amulet, and I'll give you both GAs. Coalesce Blood becomes a 60% damage multi. This becomes a 1.6 divided by what it was previously. And this becomes a 70 cut down to third is a 23. So that means that if you had this amulet, it would become this multiplied by this multiplied by this. It still doesn't overperform. You can't see the spreadsheet? Damn it. Okay. So here's where we went. Here is Lochran's. Lochran with the GA triple Masterwork crit. For max resource here, max resource on your helmet. Right. And you would drink the potion. We have to count that because that's going to change this multiplier. The attack speed is a wash of the third stat that you would get. The additive damage is a wash of one of the tempers that you would get. One of the other tempers that you would get would help you to manage the resource so that you could regain like a max life thing or whatever. The all stats are good. It's very minuscule. So we're going to call that a wash. Okay. This is what your multi is before. This is what your multi becomes after you add on this amulet with a triple masterwork crit on Coalesced Blood and a greater affix on Tides of Blood. You get up to a 2.14. Now, the other difference is you go from doing 147 damage to 175. So this is equal to 175 divided by 147. Because you would reprioritize different stats, and that just then beats out Lochran's. Can I see the message that you sent on Discord? Yes. Yep, it looks like you're using Cruor's Embrace and you're not using Lochran's. What if you added imperfectly balanced? The issue with adding imperfectly balanced is, one, I don't believe this amulet exists in the world. Getting 1 GA and triple masterwork critting, you can do that in a fairly short amount of time. If you have GA Coalesced Blood, GA Tides of Blood, and even imperfectly balanced on it at all, I think you deserve to own Blizzard. No, one with all 3 passives, Gar. I do not think that you have a Coalesced Blood, Tides of Blood, imperfectly balanced amulet. That's insane. I can't recommend people go get that. This is another one of like the problems with being a guide writer on Max Roll, right? People will look at it and go, this isn't perfect. You don't have a triple passive GA masterworked amulet. And I'll go, you're right. Because if I build around that item, nobody can use this build guide. Because no one will have these stats ever in the history of this video game. It will not happen. If it does, the person who has that item and knows what it means doesn't need my build guide. Build guides are for people who don't know how to play the class and or do not know how to play the build and or do not know how to optimize the build and or are looking for inspiration because they've been doing their own theory crafting. If somebody picks up a triple passive Max Roll, Tides of Blood, Coalesced Blood, imperfectly balanced, they don't need me. They don't need me, the boy. And I can't build a guide around that. Like, I can build a guide around like crit chance, attack speed, lucky hit chance on rings. That's very easy to get. Yours is Terror, imperfectly balanced, Tides of Blood. Enjoy spending a couple billion gold re-rolling that. Luckily, so the only thing though is, hilariously enough, re-rolling that for the passive that you want is actually easier than rolling a rolling for a third passive skill that you want versus rolling for a second passive skill that you want is actually easier. Triple passive absolutely exist. All things which can exist in the game do exist. The person reading my Blood Surge max roll guide doesn't have it. And if they have it, they don't need me. The other issue, though, is that Imperfectly Balanced actually would come along with additional cost. So I think I personally would go with Amplify Damage. But what would be great to have in guides? Well, we do literally say, like, what are the best things to get on each slot? And then we make a planner of a very high-powered character as the perfect best in slot stuff for you to aim for. Like, we already accomplished that in the guide. This is actually a conversation we had before where I pointed that out. I don't want to, Masami, but thank you. I've been talking all stream about how I do not want to use Kuro's Embrace because I want to be able to play with Corpse Tendrils. Do I think we'll ever get a great Nova build? I'm not sure what a Nova build is in D3 because I didn't really play the game. But what if you were to add on 3 more ranks? Let's just call this the what if I got like amplify damage, right? You become a 1.2 divided by 1.12. Oh, hold on, no, this would be multiplied by. Adding on a third passive. Just the third passive doesn't actually outperform Locrins, but it would allow you to reprioritize for core skills, which it would. But in a bubble, like not changing your Locrin or not changing your Lucian helm, but just getting off of Locrin, adding a third passive actually does not outperform it. It's not until you then had a Lucian with how much would I need? I would need skill rank 1. Should be a difference of 154. $147. Technically speaking, adding on amplified damage as a max roll without a GA would require your Lucian, or it would either require a GA amplified damage with a GA on core skills on Lucian, or a Lucian with GA core skills with a Masterwork crit on it to then outperform it. That's actually how much. I'm glad I redid this math. Locrins is insane. The amulet that you would need to outperform it is actually crazy. I'm this into D4 without having played Diablo 3? Yep. My like 20,000 hours in Diablo 2 kind of buoyed me for a while. A lot of people who are new here don't know that I was like a top speedrunner in D2 for a long time. In niche competitions. But I've won speedrun competitions. But in niche ones. I was top in a very small pool of people. Because there's only like 10 of us. For minions, Hellbent is still better. Well, Locrins doesn't work for minions in the first place, so it is significantly better. We're talking about greater affix passives, Raydray. In this comparison, this is the amulet that I'm wearing. this right here barely outperforms using Lochran. That amulet right there barely outperforms Lochran. I'm glad we looked into it. Yes, mathematically. I did not forget temper damage because Lochran comes with additive damage on it. Big brain. It actually comes with better additive damage on it. Calculating the elixir is hard. You still need to solve for Lucian. I'm solving for it with a resource aspect. So it's not even like using the elixir would not be good for the non-Lochran setup. It's better than a single GA. That was Lochran with a single GA. This attack speed is a wash with... Actually, you know what? No, fuck your elixir. Because for this to outperform, we needed to add another passive. I was considering the attack speed a wash because you would have one more aspect on the amulet. This outperforms the... This is the same as the additive damage temper that you would get. This is an extra free stat in pool 1, where we typically don't cap that. 61 all stats. And you still get a benefit from using the same elixir. So I think that elixir is a wash as well. Also, we're talking about an amount of calculation that is like going away from possible in this conversation without me sitting here for another like 6 hours. But this is the amulet that you would need to outperform Lochran on the same build. Now, once you do outperform Lochran though, you gain a significant amount of damage because you get to do this. And I forget where that number is. That number is here. And then you are... gaining 11% damage. I'd prefer if you limit the calculations to 2 masterwork crits per affix tops. What narrative am I trying to enhance with that though? Because that's also a significant decrease. Like we're talking about, I think this is significantly in favor of 7, 5, 12. That brings us down to a 2.4 versus the skill adds. I think that comes out, boss. That includes the additional aspect on the amulet, yes. You need an insane, because I could do the exact same thing here, right? Although this helmet shouldn't change. It's just which one of these two triples do you get, right? So the difference is actually in Lochran here versus this. Because it would be the same thing. I don't think this adds a lot to the narrative. This will come to a different number. But I'm letting you triple masterwork on your triple GA on your amulet versus a single GA on Lochran already as part of this calculation. Like, if anybody else wants to do calculations of their various combinations of what they think is fair stuff, the purpose of this calculation was to see in the end game, can you beat Lochran with an amulet? And you can. And then the question becomes, what do you need that amulet to say to beat Lochran? And this is what the amulet needs to say, and not brick. The bricking is significantly less important, but as long as you got like essence cost reduction and at least some type of additive. I think this is pretty fair. I think it's a pretty fair comparison. Next should have 1 critical strike chance. It could. Yep, it could. Then it makes it even harder for this to overperform. All right, I think we're pretty good here. I'm gonna save this as comparing Lochran on Blood Surge. Yeah, so ranks to Tides to Blood, Amplify Damage, and Coalesce Blood. With allowing you to hit crit chance cap, with improved Iron Golem, with improved Mage's Sacrifice, adds up to this. But then once you have it, your Lucian can become stronger. Yeah, I don't like that at all, actually. Okay. Blood Surge need fuel by death? No, Amplify damage is strictly stronger. Like, even when consuming corpses, Amplify damage is just stronger than Fueled by Death. So the thing that we don't know, Hunter, is how all of the unique's stats in the game are going to be changed walking into the season, because that's not included in the PTR. So while I agree that Blood to Scream historically has been so much weaker than something like this, we should remember that when we are tempering our expectations. Go Lidless, Doombringer, Starless, Crew Wars, Lokrin, Lucian, Tyraels, Blood Moon. What boots? Can't temper my expectations, they're unique. Temper my expectations a lot, but they keep bricking. Penitent Greaves, get out of here. You would need resource cost reduction. So probably sacrificial for shadow damage over time, BCE, and then you use Greaves of the Empty Tomb for DR and resource cost reduction. And lucky hit chance, so you actually have more corpses. In Season 4, Blood Surge is currently clearing 117. Yeah. All right, let's do some updates here. Let's update Bone Spear. Do I actually want a two-hander on this setup? I can't remember. This is Feast. Excuse me. What did I end up running? A one-hander with so I don't need crit chance. So here's the thing, this is very, very strong. But Lucian is so much stronger. Your mom, but it's the season of the sticks, and I that I exist. And I drink alcohol so my friends go home for Christmas. For some version of you, I know how, but I cannot lose, and I. But it'll have to do. I could gain sacrificial. I think two-hander ultimately is better. You ever tried a Thorns Necro? I haven't yet. Nope. What's going on, Ava? Ava, can I show you something? Can I show you something, Ava? Ava, let's say you're a Blood Surge Necromancer, a class that has historically found it difficult to crit cap on blood, and you get the addition of Lochran's Talisman and Crown of Lucian into the game. I have a question for you. How good of an amulet do you think you would need to have on this build to outperform the damage bonus that Lochran affords you on your character with just a single Greater Affix, just one? Yes, it's triple masterwork. You'll see why that's important. And then again, just a single GA on this unique. How good of an amulet do you think you would need to outperform the addition of an entire aspect in three stats of your choice? How good do you think that amulet would have to be? Do you think that amulet exists in this universe? Because the answer, doing the math, figuring out what each different thing would afford you, this is your benefit through Lochran's, ignoring the critical strike additive damage, the attack speed, and the all stats, ignoring that. This is your bonus. This is what your aspect would get you. This is what having 2 GA'd passive stats on it would look like. Here's what having 3 GA'd passive stats would look like. This is what your amulet would have to look like. Oh, Cam's in the way. It's just a bunch of... It is me doing the calculations of the various multis of that you would gain and how they compare to the current multi you would have. That's how good of an amulet it would need to be. Now, obviously you can temper on, like overpower damage. Lochran's already has crit damage. You could temper on like resource cost or whatever. You don't gain the attack speed stat, which allows you to drop that from a different piece of gear. You don't gain the all stats. That's like kind of comes out in the wash. Lochran's requires that you use the resource potion. Blood Surge would still want to use that resource potion for this to offset this. But if you had like a perfect resource cost reduction, then that comes out in the wash a little bit. So then it's the difference of the attack speed and the all stats and the half loss of the bonus of the resource cost reduction potion versus a new elixir that you could use. Yeah, and this, yeah, so this is what it would say. This is how good of your amulet you would need to have. This would need to be your amulet to beat this. Mathematically. We did the math. That being said, though, once you have this amulet, once you have something to swap over to, you gain about 12% damage bonus. Ends up being about 12% stronger. This is 12% stronger once you change over your... Oh, also you need to go get a new Helm of Lucian because you need a different Greater Affix, but that's how much stronger you become. What have you been entertaining yourself with? Is there somewhere where I could read it? Manually recorded 1,000 amulet rerolls to try and get how weighted certain. So, no joke. I was sitting here and I was like, I wonder how hard it is to get macabre skills. Did you know this? And I wanted to sit there with our infinite stats and try it. What tier would you put Bone Spear in season 4? Debating on my next build. The builds in relative power go Bone Spirit, Blight / minions, kind of somewhere around here. Then Bone Spear, and then Blood Lance, and then Sever is somewhere in here. And Blood Surge, and then like other Shadow Dot builds that aren't Blight. And then like that nonsense Decompose build you're running. Lochran's crit chance absolutely works right now. It doesn't work for Shadow Blight procs and it doesn't apply to your minions, but it absolutely does work. Spear is outperforming Blight minions. Spear is running 136 in season 4. I thought Bone Spear maxed out at like 120. Oh yeah, no. Yeah, no. They asked season 4. Got a Lochrans. Pretty good Lochrans. Okay. So, we have... Did I finish updating Bone Spear? Oh, I need Torment somewhere. That's why I'm running 2. To fit Lucian. Well, I shouldn't need Torment. This should be fun. And then Blood Surge. Welcome to the Crown of Lucian. And I saw your mom, she forgot that I exist. Down, 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 down. Drink alcohol until my friends come back for Christmas. I know some version of you. Yo, y'all know that song, Season of the Sticks? That slaps, man. Does Explosive Mist still work? It does. Yep. It works. It works. And now that you know that, it works exactly how you think it works. That should not be overperforming. That looks like you're topping out around like 300 million DP. Well, it's per cast. $540-ish. It looks like you're topping out somewhere around like 500 million DPS. Against a level 100 boss. So that shouldn't be outperforming Blight currently. But that's only because Blight wasn't actually Wither nerfed. So there's that. It should be outperforming it in live if they leave Wither the way that it is. Because we do have Blight back up to 2 billion DPS with Lucian, but that's without the Wither nerf. Wither nerf is like half damage again. It's like 1 billion. Well, Wither nerf is like 60% damage. I forget my calculations for Wither. But it is doing very well. Will Blood Surge builds still do Gauntlet effectively? I have no idea. I have not looked at Gauntlet this season. I kind of have no care about Gauntlet, and I don't want to mislead you. I would look at the Gauntlet leaderboards and see what they're doing. Yeah, I wish I could be more help, man, but I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Lockrens gives you up to 50% crit chance, yes. I have an entire video where I prove that Lochran works exactly as it's written on the amulet, if you want to check it out, Florian. Because if you have follow-up questions that would be answered by that video, I would prefer if you could check that out. Not to be a dick, but I've now answered questions about Lochrens for 4 days straight. And my brain is a little mushy on it at this point. What is the correct pronunciation of Lochrens? I'm saying Lochrens. Yep, it was on like day 1 or day 2 of, I think it was like day 1 or day 2 of the PTR. Do we have any reason to not pronounce it Lochran? Doesn't the guy say his name? Excuse me. What does Explosive Mist do? It does exactly what it says. It reduces the cooldown of Explosive Mist by the number of corpses that it explodes. All right, let's get a pit clear. And let's do a little video covering this. Okie dokie. I don't know why this keeps auto, like, sending me to a thing. Even with the change? Yep. No monsters in the hallways. There's no monsters in these hallways. What did y'all do to the pit? Why aren't there anything around the pit? I wish that there was any monsters in the pit, but I guess I'll have to wait for a different pit. Blood Surge size does help with speed farming. That's pretty cool. Well, it'll help me kill the... Well, it'll very slightly help me to kill the boss. In the circumstances where I have to move away from the boss often. Oh, I just spent a lot of time analyzing Blood Surge. Also, full clear. 30% of the timer? Waller? No problem.
I need more time.
Just ran a test and you came to the same conclusion? Yep. I'm glad that you were able to solve that for yourself. Again, it is bugged. Your minions don't gain anything from the amulet, but it's because they don't have essence. So I actually don't think that that's really bugged. It's just going to be unintuitive. But it does not work for Shadow Blight. So while you get the crit damage, you don't get the crit chance. Which is wild. The fact that any part of it works is very confusing. This looks pretty great, actually. This experience is not too bad. You're gonna see it on the boss. It's not great, and we're also only doing a tier 100 right now. But like taking that long to kill an elite is rough. All right, now run in, dash back out.
I cannot use that. I need more time. I need more time. I'm not ready yet. I need more time.
Oh, hi, I just got stuck. Ugh. Ugh. So yeah, you got that problem going for you. I just like stopped seeing those tornadoes after a hot second.
I need time to recover.
Or some version of you. Bow, 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 bow. So that's with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of my 9 pieces of gear at 4 out of 12, which like a build at 4 out of 12 should probably be doing this in half the time. Oh, this isn't even upgraded. This is legacy. That's awesome. Okay. Let's do a video guide. Blood Surge testing in PTR for Season 5 has gotten a shiny new coat of generic uniques, which are good for the majority of builds, as well as the triumvirate or the triune of unique items that you are going to see on basically every single Necromancer build, unless they drastically change something. But let's go ahead and talk about this No Curse, Blight on the Bar, Corpse Explosion, Blood Surge, Two-Handed Mace monstrosity? Cool thing? I'll be honest with you, it feels pretty good to pilot. It still has all the same issues with single target damage against bosses, but I have like pretty mid gear. I'm using some legacy pieces because I haven't dropped new ones in the PTR. And on 4 out of 12 masterwork, this thing is doing pretty decently in a tier 100. Now, you're not about to go win any speed farming races with this thing, but let's go ahead and talk about our learnings from this season so that we have a better idea of how to take in whatever feedback and changes they make to the inevitable Season 5 launch, and what you can kind of expect piloting Blood Surge, at least the version I'm about to show you here. Now, I know my head's in front of it. I have an entire build planner that I would highly recommend you check out because it's going to go over like the nitty gritty details of every single thing. But I want to go over the items that we're including, kind of the gameplay style, the rotation, and things that you need to know about the build, like actually how it plays, how it pilots, and what you need to do with it. So use the timestamps down below. The build link will be in the description as well as the pinned comment. Go ahead and check it out. This is definitely something that you're probably going to want to try out in the PTR, because getting a better idea of how Blood Surge is kind of evolving as we go, I think will give you a leg up once Season 5 launches. Now, I said the unholy triune of unique items that you're going to see on basically every single Necromancer bid, again, unless they change something drastic. We're talking about the Crown of Lucian, as well as Lochran's Talisman and Starless Skies. The long and short is that Crown of Lucian is a 125% damage multiplier as long as you can manage the increased essence cost. Starless Skies is going to give you 50% damage as well as reduce your total essence cost by 50%. And then Lochran's is going to feed you a massive critical strike damage multiplier for building into maximum resource. So you see why these three things kind of all play in together. Lochran solves for your crit chance, which is a big issue on blood builds. It solves for not having enough damage multipliers from your aspects, which is another issue for blood builds. It gives you a ton of good non-overpower stats to help normalize your damage across the entirety of your rotation. And then it gives you things like all stats to help out with your Paragon board, attack speed, which is just a great stat in general, and basically normalizes the expected output of Blood Surge. And while I would normally start with the skill tree, I'm actually going to finish with the gear and the aspects here, because I think that the inclusion of some very specific aspects are going to explain why this skill bar looks the way that it does. To be able to further offset the increased essence cost issues that you're going to run into, your armor is going to need essence per second and your boots are going to need essence per second as well. For the rest of the things on your armor, you're going to need a total armor roll as well as a generic. You're going to need a total armor roll as well as a flat armor roll to actually get up to your armor cap, and then either maximum life or intelligence here. Going tankier with maximum life has the added benefit of more additive overpower damage. Intellect will just be a straight multiplier of your damage through your core stat, so whichever one kind of fits into your playstyle better. And then personally going with crowd control duration, because it turns out that having monsters stunned for longer makes it easier for you to sit there casting Blood Surge for roughly 15 minutes per Moss pack. Roughly 15 minutes per elite pack. Obviously, Heart and Bones for the damage reduction. For the gloves, a lot of people have been using Kruor's Embrace. Kruor's Embrace will automatically eat the corpses, so you don't need Corpse Explosion either on your skill bar or in your skill tree. It would save you 1 point. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with Kruor's Embrace, most notably because they're also going to be buffing it moving into Season 5. The big issue that I have is that I do like to be able to stagger bosses and use corpse tendrils, and since your Blood Surge is the only thing that generates your corpses, and then it automatically consumes all corpses that were created, you have very little overlap where you actually have something to be able to corpse tendrils unless you very specifically use Blood Mist. In a lot of circumstances, I want to use Blood Mist to survive damage as opposed to just dropping a single corpse. So I'm not personally recommending it. Here we're going to go with crit chance, attack speed, and Blood Surge. If you're already at your crit chance cap, my Lochran's just isn't perfect. Then you can instead go with, again, like intelligence, overpower damage, or maximum life. Here we're going to be putting some lucky hit chances to be able to apply crowd control effects, which are just generally powerful. And even though Blood Surge has a very, very low chance to be able to proc lucky hit chance effects, we do have Blight on our build as well. And this thing does help to buoy our lucky hit chance just a little bit. As you're moving into engage monsters, you can kind of just rocket it out there, and it'll be around long enough for the fight or against a boss while you're re-engaging from dodging mechanics. Here's where you're going to put Blood Bathe to get us a secondary Blood Surge Nova. Obviously, we're going to be using Blood Moon Breaches. Now, you'll notice that mine are Legacy. These are not actually upgraded. These are from back in the day when you could just go to the Smith and upgrade. So I don't have any GAs on it. I don't have any Masterworking on it. But this thing is just pound for pound, obviously, like the best pair of pants that you could possibly put onto the build. And then here again for the boots, we're going to be using movement speed, essence per second, and either intelligence or maximum life. Another lucky hit chance to be able to apply some type of crowd control, and then more movement speed. And then this aspect right here, the cursed aura, that's what you're looking at. This will automatically apply all of the curses that you have, so both Iron Maiden and Decrepified to targets, but it will only apply it for as long as they're in the aura, and then for 4 seconds. It will apply whatever version of the curse you have, so if you have 5 ranks in Decrepify, it'll cast a level 5 Decrepify onto your targets. It will apply the Abhorrent Decrepify. It'll apply any bonuses from Iron Maiden, automatically generating resource if you have the enhancement picked. We actually don't have enough skill points to build into the curses at all. So not only is this auto-casting our curses for us, but it's literally allowing us to apply a curse without it on our skill bar and without any skill points in it. For the weapon, I played around with a lot of different setups, a one-hander and an offhand, a two-hander. In general, I think that a two-handed mace that comes with the implicit stat overpower is going to be pound for pound the best option. It's just a significant boost in the base damage. Then you get a huge roll on intellect, maximum life, and overpower damage. You'll notice that on the tempers, I currently have Blood Surge, Nova Size, and Blood Overpower damage. There's a universe where you actually want blood attacks. There's a universe where you actually want blood attack speed as opposed to the damage here. The major issue is that while I don't currently have a huge amount of maximum life, I actually don't have a lot of overpower damage. So adding on this like 184 here is representative of a pretty big increase in my overall damage. And I didn't want to brick my item after getting at least a valid. And I also just didn't want to brick this item because it took me long enough to get it in the first place. Shoutouts to my community who eventually was able to trade this thing over to me after I gambled, I don't know, something like 10 inventories worth of maces. Testing on the PTR has been fun. Here I'm also using Blood Surge Nova Size just to be able to test it out. Basically, like, let me show you the difference here. So this is normal Blood Surge. It'll go to a right about there. And then here's Blood Surge with the increased radius. It is significantly larger. What I think this would ultimately be better for is for speed farming in the Helltide. There are those weird circumstances where like monsters don't all get pulled by corpse tendrils, but they both get stunned, and you can't choose which pack you need to attack. It helps out a little bit there too. I would probably go with Bone Storm Duration, just be able to enjoy the benefits of the additional DR that Bone Storm affords you. Here's where we're putting Rathmist Chosen to be able to get a full increase in cap 2 of attack speed. This means that all of our normal attack speed goes into cap 1. This fully caps out cap 2, so we are attacking significantly faster than you normally would, even though we are using a slow two-handed weapon. Lochran's Amulet. This is a critical strike damage multiplier for how much maximum essence we have. We also are drinking a resource cost reduction elixir, so we have a 115 total crit damage multi. That's a 2.15 multiplier on our amulet right now. Onto the ring, attack speed, again, lucky hit chance to be able to apply vulnerable, and then either resource cost reduction or resource generation, depending on what your stats look like, and then more blood attack speed for the temper. And then here's where we're putting Starlight. They finally fixed Starlight. What does that mean? Well, every single time that Blood Surge deals damage, it's going to heal you. So this basically means every 4th time that you trigger this, you're going to fully recap your essence. Now you may notice that even though I have like really good essence gen and I'm using Starless Skies and the potion, I am running out of essence. Starlight is keeping us capped 100% of the time, and not only that, being at your total essence bonus is what's going to get you the biggest damage multiplier out of Lochran's. So basically every build nowadays is just kind of building like a bone build, where you have to be at max essence when you cast, or you're losing out on a ton of damage. Then obviously Ring of the Starless Skies, minus 50 resource cost and an additional 50% damage multi, more crit chance. The additive stats on this are absolutely trash. This hasn't been reworked yet in the Season 5 PTR. Apparently that's going to be when the Season 5 launches. So there are going to be a ton of unique items that are going to look a lot different walking into the season than what we're able to test right now. Book of the Dead, we're going to be sacrificing Skirmishers for more crit chance, Bone Mages for overpower damage, and then Iron Golem for crit. And now let's go ahead and talk about the skill tree. So trying to fine tune this build and get it to work and actually get it to do a lot of damage begged a lot of important questions. And it was basically, how much real estate do we have on our skill bar and how valuable is it to us? So we want to get imperfectly balanced to increase our damage. Obviously, we're maxing out Blood Surge. We do want to be generating corpses through Hewed Flesh, not only to be able to eat them with Corpse Explosion for Flesh Eater, but to also benefit from the Gravekeeper, and again, to be able to basically proactively cast Corpse Tendrils whenever we want. Then you'll notice that we're using Blight as a really simple additional 20% multiplier. Blood builds are so hungry for damage multipliers that basically a chat member was like, why don't you just toss on Blight? Why not? And I went, you know what, that's not a bad idea. On top of that, again, it does actually have a legitimate lucky hit chance, so we're able to proc Hewed Flesh much more easily than any other lucky hit effects that you might have on your build. I think that ultimately this is how I would end up piloting it. Just being able to toss this in, again, as you're re-engaging a boss, is an incredible amount of additional damage and overall efficiency for the build's output. Obviously, Blood Mist creates corpses. I currently need a single point in spiked armor to be able to cap my armor. Obviously, you would not put this point in if you didn't need to. A single point into Corpse Explosion. We don't care about Blooded Corpse Explosion. You just need to be able to trigger this thing once, mostly to be able to hit up your Fueled by Death, and again, Flesh Eater legendary node. Then down here in the curses, you'll notice I don't have any points in my curses. I had to take out the 3 points here, be able to put them into Blight. If we were sitting on like somehow a more perfect build, theoretically, I wouldn't need the crit chance here to be able to cap. And then that means that I could have those 3 points and re-put them into Decrepify. Even with the crappy lucky hit chance from Blood Surge and a little bit of help from Blight, you do trigger Decrepify a decent amount of time in packs. That helps with Corpse Tendrils uptime and Bone Storm uptime. Into the blood passives, we don't care about blood orbs. It's just like, it just doesn't matter for us because we don't really generate them in any meaningful way. And this kind of helps with healing a little bit on Starlight. Theoretically, you could get your healing up to the point where one cast of Blood Surge would refill with Starlight. But at my current gear, I don't seem to need that to be at 100% all of the time. Then we're maxing out Tides of Blood, Coalesce Blood, and then just 2 points into Drain Vitality. Again, if I had more points or if my gear was better, I would love to like fully fill this out and even put 1 point down into Necrotic Carapace just to be able to help it out a bit. Using Corpse Tendrils to be able to generate, using Corpse Tendrils as a vulnerable proc version here. Obviously, we're using all of our skeleton sacrifices, the 3 points into Inspiring Leader, 2 points into Bone Storm. We do not need the crit chance from Supreme Bone Storm based off of our stats. You shouldn't need it either. And if my Lockrens was perfect, I wouldn't even need these points right here. So that's why we're not going to put anything. And then obviously Rathma's Vigor. The Paragon board and the planner is going to be looking different than this. I literally just spitballed this as I was going, but it's going to touch on a lot of the same types of multipliers here. We want Amplify for that multiplier, building up into the Bone build, building up into Bone Graft, Essence for the crit multi, obviously a huge amount of maximum life. I'm playing around with picking up the basically the 24 maximum essence here for Lockrens. I would love to pick up this one as well, but again, I need just a little bit more armor to be able to do that. But this would be representative of 28% damage, which would be increasing our Lockrens bonus by just around 20 to 25%, a pretty significant increase in our damage output. Building over into Bloodbath, just be able to pick up the maximum life, and then here's where we're putting Sacrificial. This will benefit the additive overpower nodes here. Then we're building up into Flesh Eater. That's where we're putting Gravekeeper. Need the res here because our gear isn't good enough. Legendary node. Building over into Bloodbath using Control. This will only apply to the boss when we stagger them. We're staggering them like twice, but this helps a ton in whenever you Grasping Veins. But this helps out a ton whenever you Corpse Tendrils on top of an Elite pack. Huge amount of additional damage there. Maximum life node, and then obviously the Bloodbath overpower node. Building up into Scent of Death, more maximum life. Here's where we're putting Dominate. You don't care about the additive damage here, just get the minimum requirement. And then up into Hulking Monstrosities where we're putting Corporeal. This is just another 1.1 multi for our physical damage, which is what blood damage is. Let's just talk about the rotation very quickly. It's like quite simple, right? Basically, you want to overpower as often as possible, and you want to walk into packs already overpowering. So you need to maintain healthy status, so Rathma's Vigor will continue to climb up. Generating corpses in really dangerous places, like say there's a damage reduction aura on top of really nasty elites. You want to blood mist through. This will apply your curse to everything in those packs, already gaining you a huge amount of survivability, but then leave behind a corpse so that you can use corpse tendrils. Dash back in after casting a single blight, and then just let loose. Just absolutely dump as much blood surge on them as you possibly can. You could basically just stand there holding it down until everything is dead. If you have a particularly tanky group of monsters, or if you're higher in the pit, what I would recommend doing is before you leave a pack of monsters you just killed, eat 4 corpses. That means that when you walk into the next pack and generate a single corpse, you can trigger corpse explosion 1 time and get the full benefit of Flesh Eater as well as Fueled by Death. And you can basically just rinse and repeat this. Against bosses, you basically want to initiate in with Blood Mist to get that corpse down. For corpse tendrils, you basically want to stagger them as fast as possible. For things like the Blood Bishop, that'll get rid of the blood orbs, but just most notably, it's much safer and a much more efficient way of being able to apply your damage when you don't have to worry about dodging the shadow mechanics. Drop in a Blight whenever you are just kind of standing next to the boss and the Blight pool goes away, or again when you're dashing back into a boss after having dodged one of the one-hit mechanics. And then you basically just want to set up that little corpse explosion trick like I talked about. At the beginning of the fight, just eat up 4 corpses. The moment that you stagger them 1 time, eat a single corpse and then lay in with Blood Surge as much as possible. Use Bone Storm in general, not only to just like apply damage and a little bit of lucky hit chance for generating corpses, but for an additional damage reduction. If you ever think like, hey, I need to be able to tank this hit as opposed to dodging it. It's not going to save you all the time, but it's definitely going to save you a lot of headache when you're handling like particularly dangerous elite boss packs throughout the pit, and then save you a little bit of that additional damage against the normal attacks that one of the pit bosses would do against you. And when all else fails, just spam Blood Surge. Just holding down that button will output whatever your minimum average expected damage is, and sometimes that's just kind of good enough. Now, how do I feel about the build in general? The Helm of Lucian is incredibly powerful. Locrine's Talisman is incredibly powerful. And I wanted to take just a very quick second to show you the analysis that I did to find out whether or not Locrine's was best in slot on the build. Because luckily, this single unique amulet that everybody's going to be using isn't actually the best in slot amulet that you could find and put onto this build. No, there's something better that you could find. If you found this amulet and hit these masterwork crits, you would outperform a Locrine's Talisman with a single GA on it just for the maximum resource with the same ridiculously lucky triple masterwork crit. This is ridiculous. This item doesn't exist in this universe. Now, that being said, if you do find a triple passive with a GA on one of the blood passives, most notably Coalesce Blood, as opposed to Tides of Blood, because Tides of Blood only works for overpower damage, and you should only expect to get basically a third of your total overpower damage based off of how the rotation of Blood Surge works. So Coalesce Blood actually ends up being stronger than Tides of Blood, just as like a quick FYI. But if you were to find a Tides of Blood, Coalesce Blood, double GA with a GA on either amplify damage or something like Fueled by Death, you could go with Imperfectly Balanced, but that will increase your essence cost, and most notably you're going to be dropping a ton of maximum essence from swapping over to this. Then you get to regain the aspect of Sacrificial on your build, and then the perfect non-bricked tempers here will outperform Locrine's by 12% damage. That's right. This thing is 12% stronger than Locrine's. Now, what this allows you to do is, as opposed to getting a greater affix with triple masterwork on maximum resource on your Crown of Lucian, you instead get to triple masterwork your core skills. And then at that point, you're looking at around like 20 to 30% stronger than Locrin's and having used the maximum resource instead. But this is what your amulet would need to look like. I sat here, I did all the calculations. I know these numbers look like an absolute just jumble of nonsense, and it is, but this was breaking down how each individual change to the multipliers available to you, to your passive skills, how much more damage you would get, would look like as you progressively got a stronger and stronger amulet. And the end of the calculation was this monstrosity of an item that will never exist in anyone's hands other than an RMT website, and I guess shoutouts to them for having it. But technically speaking, basically, you get to use Locrin's for the entire longevity of your character's build, and then have this wild holy grail of an amulet to look forward to if you somehow managed to get enough money together to be able to buy this thing in game. So shoutouts to this amulet. The reason why I wanted to show you that, though, is because I'm going to sound like a broken record. I kind of just hate that every build is going to be using Lucian, Locrin's, and Starless Skies. But it turns out that if you add on that many damage multipliers to a blood build, it kind of does decent damage. That wasn't a particularly fast tier 100, but right now in Season 4, Blood Surge is able to do tier 117, what basically the level of gear that I just showed you right there on that amulet, a little bit. Not necessarily that good, but fairly close to it. And the build feels fine. Piloting it feels fine. Clearing the trash feels fine. It was cool to be able to see it actually get better at doing damage, because I was kind of topping out around about like 40 million damage on my blood surges on the more typical setup that you would have with like a one-hander and an offhand with sacrificial. But basically figuring out that Starlight actually works. Ring of Starless Skies, along with the resource cost reduction potion, will actually fully offset your Lucian as long as you have essence per second on both gear pieces. And then being able to like fully build up into Locrin's bonus was a cool little puzzle to put together and figure out. And I think that a lot of people, once you get this helmet, and obviously like once you, I don't know, craft your Starless Skies using your Resplendent Sparks in this season, will tend to be able to pilot this build and feel pretty significantly better than what you feel in Season 4 right now. But without seeing like the total change in the meta, like every single build that's going to be better, remember that basically on this same level of gear, Bone Spirit's doing somewhere around like 5 to 10 billion damage per cast. So it's kind of hard to compare against a build like that, but it's serviceable, it's fun. Our blood builds saved. Blood builds are competent. They have been competent this entire time, but they're definitely going to be a lot better once you toss on this helmet and this amulet that basically solves all your problems. But there you go. Let me know what you think down in the comments. How have you been piloting your Blood Surge build? What have you been testing? What have you been playing around with? I'd love to hear from you. If you're brand new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It would help me out a ton, and leave a like on the video as well if you liked it. Or if you didn't like it, still hit that thumbs up, man. I don't know. It took me a while to make this video. I would appreciate it. Thank you so much. As always, thank you for watching this video. I truly hope that it helps, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. All right, everybody. We are going to be ending stream early because we're going to go celebrate Panda's big old raise. So we're going to be doing that. I'm going to basically take a lot of later on, well, maybe not later on tonight, maybe at some point, a lot of tomorrow, and basically put out the 12,000 fucking videos that I've recorded over the past 3 days that I haven't gotten a chance to actually do. So look forward to those. We have a ton of things to cover. We have Bone Prison Necro, we have Shadow Blood Wave, we have Infiniminions, we have Lucian helmet needs to get removed from the game, we have Shade Mist is bugged, we have Locrin's is bugged, we have so many videos. Like, look at all of these, like from here to here. I haven't put out these videos yet. So look forward to that. And I'm going to raid you all over to some beautiful people. Would Lucians make it great again? Yep. Not S tier, but good. Serviceable. The issue is that Lucians makes every single build 125% stronger. That's the major problem. We haven't raided Rob in a bit. Let's raid Rob. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube as well. Thank you for watching on Twitch. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. Hope that y'all have a great weekend. We'll be streaming again tomorrow as well after I put out some videos. Love you, Sonny. Be good. How much DPS was that? How much DPS was that? We were doing like 40 to 80 million double surges. I don't know. It was like, it oscillates from like 20 to 40 million DPS. Somewhere around there. Maybe a little bit higher if you get all your buffs up. But let's go ahead and raid Rob. Thank you very much for watching. As always, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, arrivederci, sayonara, so long, ciao, kap kun krap, sawadee, guten Abend, hasta mañana. I'll see you all again. Bye-bye. Oh no! I clicked the button too late. There we go.